Hey guys. Hey, welcome back, Lee.
Hey, how you going, mate?
Good, good.
Kia ora koutou. Tim, you're doing the karakia, just letting you know.
Oh, we better get organised then.
Tim, are you okay to do a karakia?
Give me a minute and I will, probably not actually, but I'll have to get organised.
Or do you want one of us to find one?
Yeah, that would be good if you could. Sorry to...
Noted.
Marie, I can do it if you want. It's not a problem.
Mel's being incredibly
Actually-
mean about you, Tim. I just wanted you to know.
Actually, Marie, I can do it. There's not a problem. I've got one.
Callum has volunteered, Tim, because we know you're a crook.
No, thank
So
you.
whichever way you want to go is the important way. You tell us.
I'll probably leave it because I've got quite a sore throat.
Yep. No, you do it. And you sound as though you've got a sore throat. Callum was happy to do it. No
Cool.
problems.
Well, he does it so well.
He does. You're not bad. No. Yeah. No, he wasn't bad. He wasn't bad. I have looked.
Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai, e hi aki ana te atakura, he tio, he huka, he hauhu, tihei, mauri ora.
Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa, kia ora tātou, no mai, haere mai. You people are very fortunate, or not, as the case may be, because we've decided with only 3 of us present not to sing a waiata. So you've missed the treat. Actually, when I look there, the 2 guys, the 2 boys could have come up and sung it with us. I bet they know it. Do you know it? What? Which one? Tu te rua mai ngā iwi? I bet you know it. Oh. Well, in that case, it was a good idea. It wasn't left to the 3 of us. Last week, we had Lee in Britain. He was there with his family. And the feedback meant that there was us singing and another group of people singing behind us. Jeepers, it was disconcerting. Anyway, welcome everybody, and it's really good to see you all here today. Apologies. We've got Kia. We've got Kia online. We've got Tim, who's crook, as you can see, and Lee, who's got COVID, and he doesn't look much better either. Lee, you don't look any better. Can people hear me?
Yeah, not.
Yeah.
Yeah, hear you fine. Yeah, I actually feel a lot better than yesterday, Caroline, but thank you.
Okay. I forgot introductions as I want to do. So online, I'll start with you guys first. If you can introduce yourselves. Lee.
Kia ora koutou, I'm Lee Sampson, I'm the Deputy Chair based in a very rainy Kashmere today.
Hello, Tim.
Kia ora, Tim Scandrett, the councillor for Cashmere, and just as in a rainy place in Cashmere as well.
And Kia.
Kia ora, Kia Leslie, Community Board member from Cashmere, and from an incredibly rainy Beckenham, actually, not that far away, and I'm probably could just float on down the river to the board room.
That's right. I'll start with you. Kia ora, Toto, Marie Byrne, I'm the Acting Community Board Advisor.
Kia ora, Melanie Coker, councillor for Spreydon.
Kia ora, I'm Callum Ward from the Spreydon Ward. I live in Addington, which of course is beautiful and sunny at the moment.
Tells lies as well.
Tēnā koutou no mai. My name is Matt McClintock and I'm the manager of the community governance team.
And tēnā koutou, Carolyn Potter, chairperson of the board. So the apology, have we got apologies? We've got no one. Everybody's here, aren't they? Declarations of interest? No declarations of interest. Confirmation of previous minutes. I've read them and I didn't see a fault with them at all. Can I have a move?
I'm happy to move, Carolyn. It was quite a short agenda. Happy to move.
Thank you, Lee. Second. Oh, you said because you were at the last meeting from Britain. That's pretty exotic, isn't it? Yeah.
I was still
Lee-
there. I was still there.
Yeah, you are still there. Lee moves. Who's seconding? Mel. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, abstentions carried. Public forum. Public forum is it's no longer new, but it's been here for about 6 or 7 years, but it's absolutely wonderful. It just means that anybody from the community can come and speak to the board about any issue that they want to speak to us about. And it's a really good way of putting issues on our agenda. So the public forum, the first person we've got is Linley Gaksal. Oh, she's the one who's postponed. That's right, sorry. And Vicky Rowe is the next one. Hi, Vicky, come up to the table. Do you want to bring the boys with you? It's not there. Okay, take a seat there. You have to use the microphone because the people behind can never hear. So sit in, that's right, Vicky, that's probably the way to go. And if you could introduce yourselves and if the boys could introduce themselves.
Kia ora, I'm Vicky Rowe, I'm a local resident in Hoonhay.
I'm Taylor Curry.
Taylor?
Taylor Curry.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Sheldon Bowe.
Kia ora. It's nice
This
to
is my
have you.
son.
Yeah, nice to have you both. It's really good to have you. You have 5 minutes. I'm always lenient, but we're trying tonight to get people home. So, you know, just if you can keep it concise, but we're very glad to have you here. Go ahead.
Thank you for having me. This is also Ria Taro. He lives in the neighbourhood as well. And
Hello,
his
Ria Taro. There's a
mum.
chocolate biscuit over there and there's not many of them. If you want one, go sprint for it. Go ahead.
So I'd actually like the boys to put a proposal towards the community board because it's for you. So go, move over.
To say?
We just talked about it.
Okay.
Take your mask off. Do you like?
So we would like to have a new goal because the goal at our park is like, so we have a massive park that we could do so much with, but all we have is this little goal that's on like a different angle. But Taylor's dad has tried to fix it, but it just keeps sinking into the ground. And okay. Gainsborough Street. And there's tons of room that we could make like a good football pitch on.
Okay. Have you two boys got anything else to say? You want to say anything else?
Yeah. Because the park is really big and because there's lots of grass everywhere and that's why we wanted the goal. And because the goal keeps sinking into the ground whenever somebody tries to fix it. But Sheldon's mum has put a net on it. But whenever we kick it, it goes onto the road most of the time. It's a bit annoying.
It's a bit difficult, isn't it? Because they
Yeah.
might require a fence. It's pretty tricky.
Yeah, the
But,
fence is a
but
bit
a
small.
good net would stop it going from onto the road all the time. I
Yeah.
understand. I see what you mean. Have you spoken to any football clubs to see if they've got an old net hanging around?
Yes, I have. I've spoken to Cashmere Technical, which all 3 boys play for.
Okay.
That I've asked if they had any goals lying around, which they don't. And also the nets that I've put on, because it's a really tiny goal anyway, and that's why the boys end up missing it half the time and it goes racing onto the road. But it was worse without a net because it just was constantly on the road. But yeah, there's nothing else down at that park. There's quite a lot of boys in the area and girls obviously that are playing football as well. So it seems very underutilized. And then the boys, the only other park is Hoonhay Park, but that's, you know, for me at this age, I think they're too young to be down there by themselves. At least Taylor's parents are just across the road. So we know that the boys are being watched all the time.
Well, it's good to have use your local park as well.
Oh,
isn't it?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any questions? Oh, sorry, I'll ask online. Any questions online? Okay.
Just something with where it's placed, when you pick your board, is it going with Samuel Street or going to
Samuel.
So the proposal would be 5 by 2 metre goals. So 5 metres by 2 metres, which is in between. It's the current size that they play with at intermediate before they go into international size goals.
Do you know anything about the cost of that?
So I've had a quick look. The Forza ones from Networld, 6. Right. So the metal ones, which are probably more ideal, because then if kids do hang off them, they're going to be a bit more sturdy. And they're $7.99 a set.
A set?
No, $7.99 each. Sorry, for one with the nets.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll be brave. Mel, do you want to ask anything?
Oh, too many of us on.
Oh, I'll turn mine off. Oh, right. Just go with the loud. We don't need to muck around.
You've answered the question because it was about having 2 goals. But have you seen the man that also mows that area too? Because there's a man that lives on Samuel Street that also is mowing it.
Yes, you know his name, don't you?
What do you think?
Right, yeah, because we've asked about the length of the
Yeah, I know.
grass
Yeah,
and
yeah. But I'm just wondering.
the
what's
longer
cost?
length is the length that they'll cut it to the parks.
Yeah, I know. I'd
So,
like to give it.
luckily, they accept that
Yeah.
neighbourhood will cut it, but yeah.
Yeah, so no, I think the boys chat to Dave, who's lovely.
We're very keen with the buildings that are going up in some of our suburbs, that, you know, the 8 houses on the section. We're very keen for kids to have green space and trees to climb and things and place for games to play. What you've brought to the board is quite an ordinary, I'm not saying it's ordinary because I've never heard, we haven't had this application before, ever, for football goals. What I'm saying is I think it's a very good thing to ask for. I don't know about our the process. We haven't had an individual, not a sporting group, come to us and ask for goals to be put up like this before. We haven't, but I don't. But we I just guessing that the board is very much behind you.
Fantastic.
Is there anything else you'd like to say? Oh yes, go ahead, Callum. Oh, sorry, there is 2. Hi Tim, go ahead.
Hi, I was just wondering about contacting Mainland Football, because they're the overall, and they deal with council through Cashmere Tech. Mainland Football is kind of like the governing body, so they may be able to help out with football goals, etc.
Yeah.
Just a thought, but
Yeah.
if we contact our parks unit and ask them to do that, maybe that would be the good way to go.
Yeah, I think we'll put it through to parks but refer to Mainland Football in our question to parks. There, and we've got a DRF as well. Yep. I mean, there are things that can happen. Lee.
Our team, yeah, just really happy to support this as well. I mean, this is a reserve that we didn't know a lot about a few months ago, and now we've heard plans of some fruit trees, hopefully, and now making some better utilisation for sports as well. So it looks large enough to support both. So, it's just great to see a community park hopefully being used a lot better, a lot more wisely. So I'm happy to support.
Yeah.
The other one is that there's been Susie's poll about the basketball court.
Mhm.
So if there was, how do you see that fitting in with, like, do you think there's space for both
There's
of those
heaps of room.
activities?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, because there's a gravel area that's used, actually is impractical for absolutely anything.
Except picking up stones, which my daughter does.
Stones, nice. For that, it's good for counting stones. But not for playing sports on or anything. And even the kids on their scooters and that, often will fall off because there's all the stones up on the path. Yeah.
Okay.
So underutilized area.
Yeah. Which makes it very interesting for us, because that's been our thoughts about intensive housing, is that there has to be some reward for the children of the area. I think you've done well in coming along to talk to us. It's been great of you to sit up at the table and say hello and support the application. It's exactly what you should do in life. It's just terrific to see you, and we hope to see you again. We will put forward a request to the council on this issue, and we will come back to you.
Fantastic. Really appreciate your
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If you stay, you'll hear us discussing how we're going to phrase this. So if you sit back at the app there, you'll see how we discuss it. What's your thoughts here?
Yeah, I think we should put through a request about nets and the easiest way to do it, but also to put in that request that there's also been requests for fruit trees and potentially a basketball, half basketball court, which has been on Facebook.
Yeah.
So it's just to keep that all in mind, so
Yeah.
that all of those things could potentially be looked at rather than one out.
Yeah, but I think we
Moving on.
can do that.
Yeah.
Does anybody in the staff want to come forward and anybody familiar with Gainsborough? Watanabe? Are you there? Yeah. No, he's not coming to us. We will hear from
Just
us.
through the chair, just as long as when we go to the parks, just include them to contact Mainland Football.
Yeah, no,
That's-
definitely, Tim. I said that we'd put that in our wording. Okay, so can we draft something here that says that the board has received representation from so that they get the credit. And we are interested in discussing with you, we are interested in discussing with you the possibility of a soccer goal in the Gainsborough Reserve. We would be interested in, I would like them to come back to us because I don't want to offer them our DRE from the beginning. And can they please bear in mind too, that we've had representations from other citizens who would like have some space for planting fruit trees in this park, and B, potentially a hoop and a half court for basketball. But we don't want soccer goals to be delayed by contemplating all of it. Yeah. 2 goals. 2 goals. Yes, nets is the vital thing. Including, can we have with other park improvements in being suggested by the community? I've
up in the put here on part of the minutes at the notes in. So that's where I'll put in that there's also interest in fruit trees and soccer ball.
Okay.
And
So
that's the, if it says the issues raised.
I wanted to see wording now. Is it not possible? Yeah. See, after along with other park improvements suggested by the community, including the planting of fruit trees and the possibility of a basketball goal and half court. Yeah, well, we're just going to remind them. Okay, and report back. That's fine. Is that all right? Does anybody else want to have any different wording?
No, Watanabe just did send a note earlier just to say that he would support or work with that party. So yeah, just.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So he'll say hello to Vicky and the boys at some stage.
Well, he just said a note to that effect. So yeah.
Okay, that's great. He's our local, hi Vicky. He's our local staff member and to do with sport. And so he's said online that he's will be in touch with you at some stage and talk to you and the boys about it as well. Yeah. We've got that up there. It's gone from me.
I think it'd be good. I think maybe as you mentioned before, just happy with the wording as long as it's not necessarily packaged up all in one. Like if they can come to a
No. Yeah, I don't know. I want to have leaving the room, but I want this issue not to be constrained by the other issues as
okay,
well. I know
yeah.
what you're saying. And yeah, they just have to know there's interest in those other two things so that we think about the room. But I actually don't want Vicky's proposal to be constrained in terms of time. I know what you're saying. Yeah. But we can talk to Watane about that as well, so that we get things done in order. Is that all right? So is everybody happy with that? We don't move and second that from the public forum. We just need to agree, and it goes off to staff. Thank you very much. Graham Robinson. Hi, Graham. As many as you like can come up to the table. It's really good to see you here. This is the way of really formally placing it on our agenda. So, and it's really great to have regular input from the best organisations in our ward like you. Which is actually true. We can laugh, but it's true. Go ahead, Graham.
We've got a little slideshow for you. A deputation purpose is to ask for 30k per hour reduction in speed, or reduction to 30k per hour in as many streets of Addington as we can possibly manage. We have a map based on boundaries suggested by John Wilson from the book Local Lives in the Street of Addington. There is some dispute about some areas which some people consider swaying around the southern fringes, western fringes, and some a little bit on the northern end, which used to be Riccarton. They used to have Riccarton Borough. So we've suggested as much as possible we thought.
Look at that.
Team, sorry to interject. I'm really struggling to hear Graham. I don't know if you can just to double check the mic is on.
Is that better?
Yeah.
That's 100 times better. Thank you so
Sorry,
much.
I'll start again. We're here to ask for a reduction in speed to 30 kilometres per hour in as much of Addington as we can get away with.
Yeah.
We've supplied a map which has boundaries set by John Wilson, a local historian, when he wrote a book called Local Lives, The History of Addington a few years ago, about 2016, I think. And there are some fringe areas of Addington which some people would consider Spreydon, and some at the north which some would consider Riccarton, but historically what's in the map is what John considers Addington. Okay, we've got a map here in front of us. We have a range of speeds at the moment. The blue line through the middle with the Braham Street Expressway to the bottom, further down, yep, is 60 kilometres along there, and it changes to 100 where it heads out through the motorway. Blenheim Road at the very top until it gets onto the bottom of Moyas Avenue is also 60 kilometres per hour. And then the majority of streets in Addington are the yellow colour, which is 50 kilometres per hour.
And the
pink is currently 40 kilometres per hour. And then we have a little cluster of streets down there by the Selwyn Street shops, down on the bottom right-hand corner, which is Selwyn Street in front of the shops along to Coronation, between Braham Street Expressway and Coronation Street, Rosebourne Street, and then Somerset Crescent and Willard Street, which goes behind the Addington Primary School. If we go to map 2, we are asking for all those coloured green to become 30. So the logic behind our thinking is there are 2 streets or 3 streets which transverse Addington, because Addington's a neighbourhood which is in the middle between the city and the outer suburbs. So you've got a lot of traffic goes down Antigua Street, goes down Selwyn Street, and then also down Lincoln Road. Lincoln Road is set to reduce to 30 kilometres when they've finished the bus lanes, which I believe is supposed to be finished by November at the end of this year. Selwyn Street and Addington, ideally drop those to 30 as well, but if you think they're not going to work because they're currently a high moving area where there's a lot of traffic goes through, but it's only able to move at 50 kilometres between peak times. At peak times, it's a crawl. It's just idling and just moving a wee bit forward as you go. There's a lot of people who come in on the motorway and then turn onto Selwyn Street. Then you've got people come from Horswell and Hoonhay who come along Coronation Street or the bottom end of Selwyn Street, join on past the shops and then head up to the hospital or to work in the city for some reason. What do you got there?
I've never seen Princess Street. I didn't even know it existed.
Princess Street.
Yeah,
It's a fairly old street. Yeah.
yeah, it would be.
That's one of the areas that sort of Rickett and Burry used to have.
Yeah.
We have a couple of streets here, Thiewood Ave, which has had build outs back in the 90s put in to slow traffic down. There's a little road hump, and further along there's also a few more of them. Unfortunately, humps on their own are not enough. This is Ruskin Street. This is just by the back entrance to the rest home, and there's a little reserve on the left-hand side past the blue car there. Unfortunately, you see both cases here, the van is sitting in the middle of the road. There's no way you can get two cars through there between the curb and the cars parked on the side of the road. So people have to slow anyway, but if there is a gap, some people unfortunately put their foot down and just go for it.
That van's parking is a bit like my parking.
And this is Polson Street. Again, I draw your attention to the white line in the middle and the gap between that and the parked cars. Please do not take the solution of some will take away the parking. Because of high intensification in Addington, we don't need to lose any more parking.
No,
And also some of those cars parked during the day are not residents. They're people who park there and then walk or cycle or skate over the railway and Moyes Avenue and go to the hospital or other businesses in the city centre.
no, the traffic engineers like slow roads. What I'm saying is they don't object to people for the sake of parking, for the sake of it. But they're quite happy to have narrow roads. Yeah.
But unfortunately, the negative side is some of the street works which were done took away parking, and that was before we had the intensification. Now we've got the intensification. We have a lot of trouble with people who are sometimes in dispute about who can park where, and also because of the cost of living and the cost of rents. Where you may have a 2-bedroom flat or townhouse, where you may have previously had one couple there, now you have two couples, one in each bedroom. So in many cases, 2 and sometimes 4 cars for that unit.
And we can't solve that.
No, well, yeah, but I can understand why, because the cost of living and the cost of rent's gone up. They take in someone to share the cost, so that means there's more pressure on the roads and parking areas.
Oh, you think of those sections that have got 8 houses on them now.
Yeah, I know sometimes. But the other thing, of course, is we would like to see the speed reduced because it is a predominantly residential area. And unfortunately, some people use the shortcut. And with the changes coming for the Brome Street Expressway, some people are going to try and dodge down the side streets to avoid the traffic congestion that will be caused by the roadworks. It's already happening with Lincoln Road. People are avoiding Lincoln Road. They're coming down Selwyn Street, then down Disraeli Street or Harmon Street.
We know that.
Yeah. So, you know, and unfortunately you get a flow on effect. You change one thing, that means someone else redirects their attention to something else and puts more pressure on that. But the other thing is we need to make sure that those streets do have access, because the example I gave in my letter is with the mock shooting, Brome Street was actually closed off because a car was believed to have bombs in it. And they were sending buses even down Burke Street, which at the Selwyn Street end is very, very narrow. So, you know, you've got to have alternative access routes other than the main places like Brome Street and Moyes Ave.
We understand.
Yeah.
And this isn't a pushover. We
Yep.
know it's not a pushover, but on the other hand, the council, all of whom are still there from the time that we discussed 30K with council, except one, I think one council member, 2 council members, one of which is Jake, and weren't at that discussion, but the rest of the council, I think, were at that discussion, including Melanie. where we asked for the 40K because we'd been told by traffic engineering that they couldn't ask for anything else. And the council spent a long time talking about why they would put 30K into Addington. The council themselves held it up. But having said that, Waka Kotahi are the bosses of overall policy, and certainly we don't have a sure thing, but we are very much behind you. I'm not speaking out of turn, am I, Callum? We're very much behind. Do you want to add?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, the only thing I would add would be one of the big things is consistency, because there is such a huge variety of speed limits across the suburb. With the big area of 40 on one side of Selwyn Street and 50 on the other, and then just south of Brougham Street, the 30, it would be good, whatever it went down to have some consistency.
Yeah, so
It is confusing at the moment. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know half
Yeah.
the time.
I don't think you're going to get Brougham to be any different.
No, and we wouldn't expect Brougham to be any different, nor Morehouse Ave. And, you know, we're certainly flexible on Selwyn Street and Antigua Street. But outside those, it would be good to have some consistency, whether that was 40 or 30.
Christine, have you got just a sentence or two, or are you okay?
Only just some vague, a little bit of research. I followed a vehicle who was going at a moderate speed, full speed, and they were going 30 k's all the way down Lisbon Street. It seems to be for a regular driver, the same speed that people decided that that's the same speed to go down this street. It's just a little punch.
Yeah. No, those streets command 30K if you're a sensible person. I know, Tim, about you and Kier, but I'm going to call upon Callum first.
Yeah.
Remember, this is question time, not discussion time.
Yes.
Okay, go
yes.
ahead.
Yeah, I was about to get on my soapbox, but yeah, totally support this proposal. I think, yeah. I'll save that for later. The question was, have you? You've obviously had a lot of discussion around this in the ANA. What's the sort of feeling from residents that you've heard about?
We have
about this
been
issue?
approached by some residents who had trouble with the speed in Addington, but we realised this is not our decision. This is to go to the next step where it's put out to the public, and then they can make submissions on it. But we have to get to the first step of actually putting it out there in the public forum, so people have a chance to say, yes, we agree or we disagree.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. Questions, Tim?
Thank you. As Caroline alluded to earlier on, we tried to get a slower speed around the square. So if you gentlemen looked at your map and you removed Lincoln Road, Selwyn Street and Antigua Street and left them at 50, would you be happy then for us to kind of try and approach it with council in sections, like you've got the small streets off either side of Lincoln Road, and then which lead into the square, so that you've got that block either side of Lincoln Road, then you've got the block between Lincoln Road and Selwyn Street, and then you've got the block between Selwyn Street and Antigua Street. I mean, I'm just, you know, if we turn up with the whole lot in one hit, the traffic engineers will kind of wobble, and Wakatahi, although they've totally changed, are still, you know, like, you know, our traffic engineers do have to kind of encourage them across the line, so to speak. What are your thoughts on that?
Our logic for putting a almost blanket 30 kilometre per hour limit in Addington is, I noticed, for example, in Selwyn Street, if you come off Brougham Street, there's a 30K sign. You come from Coronation Street, there's a 30K sign. But when you come off Selwyn Street into Rosewarne Street, there's no sign. When you go into Somerset Crescent, there's no sign. At the other end of Rosewarne Street, where it comes off Simeon Street, there's a 30K sign as you go into it and a 50K sign as you come out. So what we're thinking, the more streets you have 30K, then there's a better chance that you're going to have less signage needed on the lampposts. But if it gets designated as a 30K area rather than a 30K street, that means you can put a 30K stamp on the roadway, and they know that stays 30K until they leave it. Because as I say, to go from Selwyn Street to Rosewood, unless you're aware that it's still 30K, I can imagine some people think, oh, I'm out of the 30K area with Selwyn Street, I can put my foot down, it's back to 50, but they won't know till they get to the other end. They're supposed to be doing 30 down Rosewood.
Selwyn is the second highest carriageway next to the motorway. And so their designation is so high. But on the other hand, Wolston's Ferry Road is down to 30K. So,
but there's a number of other streets in Christchurch which have also been reduced to 30K.
that are big streets. Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why we think now's the time to do it and mention about it, because also, as I say, Lincoln Road is being reduced to 30K on a permanent basis.
Yeah.
So for
We
consistency,
understand.
yeah.
Let me try and get the question in.
Yep.
Sorry, Lee. Oh, no, Akir.
Hey, sorry, I won't go on about Ferry K zones too much, because I think Carolyn was sick of me talking about them yesterday as well. My question was more around the parking, actually, which was a bit of a digression, but I understand that there has been talk about residents parking as one thing in that space. Is that something which the ANA has had much of a think about?
In what way?
So I mean, would I know that there's a big problem with you've got a lot of commuters coming in, and that can cause a problem for residents. Would the ANA support looking at a residents parking permit scheme as a way to help manage demand on parking in some of those areas of Addington?
Well, there's already a parking scheme for those who are residents, but they've got to pay something like $30 or $40 a year to get a permanent private park out on the roadway. And that's fine until you change your car, and then suddenly your car gets a ticket because it's not the one that's registered for that car spot. They have tried to solve the parking issue by putting in some 2-hour limits on one side of Selwyn Street, for example, and some non-restricted times on the other side. But there's still, I know from driving down that way that, there's still people who park very close to corners who probably shouldn't. There are people who park on grass berms who probably shouldn't. But I can also understand their frustration about, there's a lack of parking because someone else has come and taken it and they want to get somewhere near their house. Unfortunately, with the government directives, we're told we're not allowed car parks on new developments, and we're supposed to put as many housing units on a section as possible. But the downside is most people still need a car to take their children to school or go to work, and many couples, one goes to the east, one goes to the west, so they're not going the same direction.
I think we should concentrate.
Yeah.
I understand the discussion.
I'm trying to answer his question.
Yeah, no, he's dead right. He's dead right. But I think we should. I think we should concentrate. I think getting that 30K would be such a triumph that it would leave parking issues for dead. But I think we should do one thing at a time.
Yep.
We're not going to get both.
Our suggestion was the speed rather than the parking.
Yeah.
But it's.
Are there any other questions? Okay. Splendid to see you. It really is. And we have hopes, but this is one of those intransigent things where Waka Kotahi has an influence. And thank you both very much for coming on. We'd like to see you back when it comes to name changes. Right. Apparently it's not far away. It may be the new board, right, but I think the new board would very much like to talk to you when it comes to name changes. Sure. Thank you both very much for coming.
Thank you.
It's worthwhile. Marvelously worthwhile. Okay, resolution. Just a request from the Addington Neighbourhood Association that the board request of council serious consideration about the Addington bracket C maps bracket becoming a 30K speed limit area. I'd rather not get specific street by street and just put the maps to them.
I mean, the staff can come back to us with advice on that, and we can talk about that detail then.
Carolyn, just very briefly, a couple of weeks ago you asked me about any kind of lessons learned from the UK, and my hometown has gone for a consistent 20 miles per hour throughout the whole city, throughout the whole town. So Graham talked about consistency before. So 20 miles an hour is 32 kilometers. So the whole, the whole town, every single road has gone for that. So consistency is important, and that's the things they're trialing in Europe at the moment. So
I can imagine that. What's the name of the town, just for interest, Lee?
Oh, the town is Buckley, so just right on the North Wales border. But this is a common trait now of going for complete consistency of speed limits.
Yeah.
So you don't need to have different speed treatments in different areas, just having a consistent approach.
Yeah.
So
and I think you're right that it is a trend, because I think Waka Kotahi will be looking at overseas trends. So that's really interesting. Thank you, Lee.
Yeah, I just wanted to sort of second that as well, the point around consistency, because that whole area that you've highlighted, apart from some of those larger roads, but all of the smaller roads especially, they're all designed the same way, really, the same kinds of curves and channels and speed humps. And I think, the idea of making, a section of it 30 and another section not is absurd.
Yeah.
I think that doing the whole thing, I mean, I appreciate that, the idea of biting off a huge amount.
I know,
but
I worry about the reaction.
Yeah. I just think ultimately you can't really justify having differences there, because it's the same streets, really.
Mel?
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to put this to the experts. We're going to emphasize to the experts when we meet with them how much this means to us and what it meant to council when the issue came to them 4 years ago or 6 years ago, whenever it was, and what it meant to councillors at the time as well. And actually, I'm going to quote the Buckley example that Lee's just given us from what's happening in Europe too, because I'm pretty sure Waka Kotahi will be will be aware of all of that, the trends that are happening internationally. So what wording have we got? Can we note, it's up to you, but can we note before it goes away, and Gareth Wright from the Addington Neighbourhood Association. Oh, you've got it in the heading. Okay, yeah. The speed limit has to be 30. That's the big deal while they're here. Right? What they want is 30k consistently across the paddock. So in the second paragraph, to 30k speed limits, to reduce speed limits to 30k throughout Addington. In the second paragraph. Yeah, sorry. And delete the A member, because just let's see what they do with a solid 30k. Just let's see what they do. Yeah. So you wanted the whole reason was to have 30k consistently throughout it. Yep, I will. So no, in the second paragraph that you've got, 2 maps. Maps.
Maybe a different concept, instead of having 30k streets, as I said before, you actually have a 30k area.
Yep, that's what you said, and that's what Lee said. Buckley. Remember it.
Oh, seriously, I'll send you a link. The Welsh Assembly's looking at doing this at every town in Wales. So every single town.
Introduced throughout Addington. Yeah. Can you put bracket? Yeah. It was noted by a board member recently returned from the UK that counties and countries in the UK are introducing 30k speed limits throughout the urban areas. put 32k speed limit. Oh no, put 20 mile. And our speed limits throughout the urban areas. Oh, it's irrelevant, but it's a very nice thing to say. Okay, let's have a look. Is there anything there, people, that's wrong? I think leave this, delete the second paragraph, the last paragraph, delete that, the last paragraph. It just becomes irrelevant once the second one's in there. Okay. Yep, thank you. Okay. We don't move in second, these just go forward on agreement. And so we've agreed on this. It's always not perfect because we're doing it on the bounce, you know, but I think that expresses what you intended to say. And we're going to send that through to staff now. Is that all right?
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming again.
Mm.
Miriama Buchanan.
She has dropped off the call while we dropped off there, so I've sent her an email to see.
Sorry, is Miriama online there? I don't think she is. She's
Okay.
dropped off the call, so I've sent an email to.
Apologise, and can you tell her that she'll be first up at the next board meeting if she wants
Will
to
do.
come?
Okay.
Whatever happens, she'll be first.
Okay.
Okay, is that all right? Thank you. Deputations by appointment, Helen. And you'll speak about the correspondence report of this agenda regarding Letters Spur track. I wrote a note on my thing. Sorry to be delayed, Helen.
No, that's all right. It's all interesting. There's no email. So what I pushed it to, just the one.
Right.
person on it.
Here we go. I wrote a note on your.
Yeah,
Go
so-
ahead.
Thank you. So first of all, repeating the apology that was in my letter to the board for being one of those nagging people who come back again and again about the same issue. But I just feel frustrated because it seems such a simple issue that I have been raising for years and got nowhere with. So originally there were 3 issues in relation to the Letters Spur track that I was raising. For anyone who doesn't know it, the Letters Spur track runs from the bottom of Longhurst Terrace up through the dog park and right up to the Summit Road.
Yep.
And the bit that I'm concerned about, it's an excellent track all the way up, well kept, good quality, except for about 70 metres from the bottom end, there's a quagmire of mud.
Mm.
And I mean, it was a quagmire of mud before today's rain. It'll be completely impassable now, but we don't expect tracks to necessarily stand up to this sort of rain, but this is just there all the time. It's a muddy quagmire. And it either a channel cut across it, or maybe it needs some investigation as to what's happening to stormwater further up the hill. Maybe there's a broken stormwater pipe or something, because it's always muddy there, you know, even days after there's been any rain. And a couple of times in the last, well, I've slipped and landed on my backside in it, and I've seen somebody else do that as well. And I've got a small dog with short legs who has to be bathed every time she comes home because the mud's up to her up to her chest.
Sorry,
yeah,
Helen.
yes.
Lee, have you got a sound issue?
No, I'm fine. No,
You got
I'm
your
fine.
hand up.
Oh, no, I've just got a question for Helen later. That's fine.
Okay,
Right.
okay.
Okay.
He's in getting in
Right.
first. Go ahead. Helen.
So that's the mud. I mean, that's just very simple and straightforward. It's a lovely track and it's made less usable because of the mud. The other thing that I've been nagging on about for years is the fact that there is no signage at the bottom of the track on Longhurst Terrace. So people come up the beautifully made steps from Hollis Avenue, they stand on one side of the road, they look across at the track, which has got no signage at all. And I've seen them time and again, obviously deciding, oh no, that can't be a public track, that must be somebody's private drive. And so they head on up the footpath, up the road instead. And up about 200 metres up the steep road, they come to a sign that says entry to Victoria Park. And if they turn in there, they go all the way back down the track, the same distance they've just walked up, to get onto the lettuce spur track because they haven't seen it signposted at the bottom. And again, it just seems such a simple thing. It's one post in the ground with one of those little metal plates on it, and it doesn't seem like a lot to ask. But that track entrance has been there for close on 20 years without a label.
I know. I think the signage one is relatively easy to solve. I'm not sure about the mud. I walk in the quarry every morning, and I'm not sure how much they can solve all mud, but let's ask. Let's ask. That's
Well,
the
this
most
is not,
important
it's
thing.
not, I mean, of course, there'll be mud everywhere after this rain. And any time after there's been any amount of rain, you expect there to be mud. But in this particular place, there's mud there all the time.
Yeah, no, I
And it's
understand.
stretched right out because people have gone round the edge of it and round the edge of it and round the edge of it. And you can't go round the edge of it anymore. It's covering the
I
whole
know.
area.
No, I can understand that. I can understand that. Questions? Oh, Lee, first, go ahead.
Well, Helen, and again, I feel a sense to kind of apologise. This is the third, as you said, it's the third time that you've contacted the board. So I'll just in terms of the board process. So we actually raised this on an action list some time ago, and Paul Devlin, Parks Ranger, spoke to this and did give us some assurance that maintenance would improve on that track. So can you just give me some insight into if there has been any improvement in terms of general maintenance of the track?
Yes.
Just give me a feel for that, if you can, please, Helen.
Yep, I noted in my letter, the one thing that does seem to have been achieved is that it does seem now to have been added to a maintenance schedule. I must say a bit erratically, but the grass is mown from time to time now. Whereas before it seemed to be up to thigh length, the grass, before it ever was mown. That's definitely improved. So it's on, it appears to be on somebody's standard schedule now to mow the grass.
Great.
But they don't do anything else. They don't cut back the encroaching branches or anything else. It's obviously just purely a grass mowing contract. Not obviously, evidently. Just a grass mowing contract. But it is progress.
Okay, no, that's no. I'm just pleased to hear at least we've made some progress. As Carolyn said, I think the signage should be an easy one if we re-raise that, and obviously, I think the board would obviously look if we can make improvements to the runoff if possible as well. So, okay, no, thank you. That's answered my question, Helen. Thank you.
Can we just? I don't want to add much to this resolution, so what I'd like to say is please see attached, because I can't rewrite what Helen has said better than Helen. So if we can just send those two things, but can we just add, I'm doing it at the wrong time. I know I should be questions only, but if we could just say, is there any reason why the muddy part of the track can't be fixed? Just a simple question. I just want to know if they've looked at it and said, no, that's the way it's going to be, or if it just has been overlooked.
In about at least half a dozen other places on the track, there are drainage channels cut across the track with a wooden board on either side of them. I don't think that would solve the problem completely, but at least it would drain the worst of the mud away. I mean, even if that was all they did, it would be a help.
Okay. So underneath two recent snaps in solved, can we just put a sentence saying, is there any reason why this hasn't been resolved? I'd just like to know, because snaps in solve is usually quite helpful.
Yep.
But so let's just see what we can do with that. Is there any reason why it hasn't been solved? Please. Please. Sorry, I shouldn't have done this right. Does anybody else want to ask any questions? I didn't do it quite right.
I think Tim has a question.
Tim, I haven't got you up, sorry, with your hand up.
Oh,
Go ahead.
Thank you. Helen, I was contacted by the gentleman who lives in the very end of Scarf Place.
Yes, John L.
Yeah.
Yep.
So because somehow a Scarf Reserve has been absorbed into the track.
Not absorbed into it. One of the entrances to the track comes off the little reserve at the end of Scarf Place.
But what they've done is somehow in the reserves kind of planning, there is no longer a Scarf Reserve, so it's all a lettuce track. But that aside, he does an amazing job there. So, and he's cut the the channels, if you like. So I'm just so so we're chasing that up as well with regards to how that's happened and also the condition of the track. So hopefully we'll get something fairly shortly. But he said they did step up the lawn mowing, but not the maintenance of the other vegetation, which he's been doing.
That's right. That's exactly what I just said. And
Yep.
I must say, it's immaculate outside his place. You come to this lovely, beautiful, smooth bit of track with planting along the side of it. And
He's done an
a
amazing
splendid
job.
there. Yes.
Absolutely.
It comes down to both of us. We have to find out. Okay. So what we do now is we're going to send both of your statements through, because it's pointless rewriting them, and say the board would like to know if there was any reason why the mud issue hasn't been resolved and the signage replaced where it should
Not
be.
replaced. It's never been there.
Sorry, the signage placed at 70, adjacent to 70 Longhurst Terrace, where it should be. Yeah,
good.
So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. I hope I don't bother you again.
Thank you.
Oh, this is correspondence, people, so we need a mover or a seconder. Can I have a mover for that, please? Kier?
I'll take it.
Oh, well, Lee. I'll ask for Lee. No, Kier. I said Kier.
No, Kier was first. Kier beat me to it.
Seconded Lee. Seconded Lee.
I've at least been a champion in the past.
Yeah. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, abstentions, carried. So if we can just get that back, that's really good. Thank you very much for coming, Helen.
Thank you.
And we turn the page, presentation of petitions, correspondence, Helen. Why community area report, presenter Matthew.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, just happy to take the report as read. And any questions on the report, we have staff here to answer any of those.
We've agreed on the community, on the 10 recipients. We've agreed on that process, eh?
Correct.
Is there anything here that you'd like to draw our attention to? I'm just thinking of all these are well-known issues.
Yeah, and some of it was covered in the briefing last night as well.
It was, eh? Quite a lot of it was in the briefing.
Yep.
Any staff member here thinks that we've written to one of the person who raised this? The Addington land ownership, the possibility of the footbridge over the railway in Addington. We've received advice on that. Has that advice been sent to her?
Yes.
About the multi-ownership of it? Remember that was the issue? Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's great. How did she react? I mean, it's not, but it's very hard.
Yeah, I mean, I think she understands, the board's position. Yeah. It's something that would be really nice to have, but it just can't be a priority at the moment, given everything else that's going on. And I sort of said to her, like, she did get a few other leads in that she was going to go and talk to the owner of the mill, that guy whose name has just fallen out of my head, but and a couple of other businesses around there to see if there was interest from them. And so I thought, well, look, if you get a bit more of a lobby group who's really, really keen for it, come back and talk to us. But yeah,
because what was interesting was that there used to be one there.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
Is amazing.
Yeah.
You'd never think it was there, but there used to be.
Yeah.
That was amazing. Oh, in the 19th century sometime, probably when the railway.
Yeah, Gareth told us that at the ANA when she came to the ANA.
He did too.
Yeah.
Gareth told us.
Yeah.
And then there's Linden Grove request for traffic calming, and the summary of that's in the notes here, I agree with. I'm quite familiar with Linden Grove, and traffic, those humps on the roads that people want for traffic calming cost 100,000 each or something, don't they? They cost it costs huge money to put in.
When that came up, we mentioned in Twizel they screw them to the road, the big rubber judder bars, and they're in 3 sections so cyclists can slide between them. And I think we should. They're brilliant. They really are. I think we should pursue that with the roading team, because I mean, it serves every purpose you want. The cyclists can slide in between them. Cars have to slow down for them. They're not actually built into the road. They're screwed in, you know, they've got obviously big screws into them. I think we should really kind of pursue that.
So
Well,
are we
ask
talking
to
about
look at it.
flexi posts?
No.
it's talking
These are
about
true judder bars, and what
that are
you
screwed
do,
into the road.
yeah,
Oh.
Cost money.
well,
Yeah.
they
And
do cost money, I'm
Twizel-
sure, but
But if Twizel's doing it, that local authority has got absolutely no money.
but
And
you
so-
think also that the conditions they have to put it like from
Yeah.
hoar frost to heat waves.
Yeah. Would it be okay if I just asked Marie
Yep.
if we could have the traffic guys come and talk to us about them as an
That
alternative?
could be good to wrap into the flexi post
Yeah.
chat as well, because
Yeah.
I think we're still waiting for a bit of advice on that too.
We haven't got that back.
No, yeah.
If we could just have the traffic engineers at some stage come and see us about flexi road humps like they had in Twizel that they screw into the ground. I just love it when a small town does things better than us. I don't know. Be good to see. I just like to know about them. Yeah. But otherwise, there's nothing here. So can I have a mover and a seconder to receive the staff report, the area report?
I'll move.
Thank you, Callum. Thank you, Mel. Any discussion? All those in favour, please say aye. Against, abstentions, carried. Members exchange, I'm going to start with the guys online, and so that they can go if they like. Or no, you're not allowed to go. You've got to listen to everyone. Tim.
No, I will be interested in having a bit of a drive around tomorrow just to see the extent of the flooding. I know that our retention basins aren't quite finished yet because we've got the one in the Cashmere Valley, but it will be interesting. But that's all I've got.
I think my section's more flooded than it ever has been before.
Yep.
Lee, you don't look
Yeah,
great,
I
Lee.
had to. I had my luxury treat to go and have a COVID test today because I was an overseas traveller. I had to get a physical test today, so I actually went out and saw some of the flooding. It was quite bad. What I saw around 4 o'clock. So hopefully the rain has eased off a little bit. So hopefully it's not gone much worse, but it was quite bad along Eastern Terrace, certainly around 4 p.m. anyway. But yeah, fingers crossed for that community.
Those guys are used to it on Eastern Terrace. It's probably the only place that
Yeah.
they're used to it.
Yeah, true. The only other thing that I've got, the Cashmere and Port Hills Working Group, in conjunction with the Waihoro River Network, we're doing a sediment control seminar on the 26th of July at South Library. I think it's open invite, but I'll just double check that first. It may be RSVP. But it's also Christchurch Adventure Park is also going to be an attendee and presenter. So we're just looking at community perspectives on sediment control. There's quite a full agenda. So that's the 26th of July, 7 till 9 p.m. South Library. But I will double check if it's open or not.
Could you let Marie know so that her notes reflect that, so that our minutes don't go out inviting every man and his dog and that's not open?
Yeah, I'll check that before we release the minutes. So yeah, I will check that. The only other, hey, and just very, very quickly, I know people want to dive away, but just the other thing that I really learned from my trip over back to the UK was just waste management and how heavy they are on recycling, because it's a huge legacy item. So I went to waste sorting facility there, and honestly, you could not. They sorted nearly every single material you took as general waste. Until you ended up with that much, which couldn't be put into a so your mattresses, your plastics, heavy plastics, everything was segregated. So it's just the way. I know it's not easy for an unpopular council to do things like this, i.e. in Christchurch, but it's the way we've got to go in terms of recycling. It was a bit hard because you had to literally traverse about so many different parts of the facility to drop different things off, but it was just such a logical and well thought out process that I saw in the UK. So literally everything nearly went to recycled. You had to physically walk past somebody if you had something that couldn't be defined as recyclable. You had to physically walk past a person with that item. So, which was, you know, which it's the way we'll end up going over the next 5-10 years in Christchurch. But it's
our problem is critical mass in terms of having the machinery to do it and the factories to take the recycled stuff. Europe's got the factories and got the critical mass, isn't it? That's the problem.
Yeah, but we can't just keep deferring the way we treat our you know, our general waste, which we do. We sort some stuff here. We're getting better, and I know we've got this bigger vision for recycling plants in the South Island. But yeah, it was just a whole different way of looking at it. It was so much more considered. But hey, I'll talk to that offline in a larger capacity. Just how well it was orchestrated. But you know.
Okay, thanks, hun, for that.
Okay, thank you.
Callum.
Yeah, two things. Went to the ANA, which you guys did as well, and they were.
It was a good meeting.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, they were after a council resource called the No Fixed Abode document.
I got some copies printed and 2 older versions,
Oh, cool.
and delivered them to Christine's letterbox at the library, at the gardens.
Oh, easy.
But yeah, there's that newer version that
They wanted
Isn't
it to
that
be
the
up.
Salvation Army's one?
no, it's a council one.
Yeah, it's just like it looked like just like an index of resources for people who are experiencing homelessness. Yeah. Okay, that's cool. Thanks, Bill. And the other one was still getting inquiries about the vape shop stuff from residents, whether we've had any feedback from staff around that. So, yeah.
I can give you an update on that. We're in the middle of arranging a briefing briefing from CDHB, from the person there, I can't remember the name of, who handles all the vaping stuff, to give some to give the board information on the vaping legislation, including the density issues, and also get a staff member council staff member from the policy team who is working on that issue as well. So we're just
fantastic.
Yes, yeah,
Exceptional.
That's
so
excellent. Thanks for that,
hopefully
yeah.
we're looking at that in mid-August.
Okay.
That's
Awesome.
exceptional.
Thank you.
Marie. Thank you very much. Can you make a note of that so it's on? So it's in the record.
Yep.
Thank you very much. That's excellent. Mel.
I was going to mention that Carolyn was written about in the Southern View, just so that it's
Don't put that in.
which was a great article when I shared that, and they got lots of lovely comments on Facebook. I just bringing this up because Heather was there, and I don't normally about Canterbury neighbourhood support because I'm the council rep. I think we've talked about it before on there, and they're looking at how that will be structured. But apparently, and I know this is going to be looked at, but apparently each board has a rep that should go to it, but most of them don't.
No.
I was just wondering if our board actually does. Anyway, I'm just mentioning it because I think they're really trying to grow and be more connected to the community and become less of an elected member group and more of a group that's got lots of people that are actually part of neighbourhood support as part of the governance structure.
We tend to think of them as a sort of has-been. Like neighbourhood support used to be on people's letterboxes, and it was always run by an ex-cop. And
it still is.
Yeah, and they used to get out and about, and it was quite fashionable for a while, but you tend not to remember that. It tends not to be something we've thought about recently.
However, they have had that funding from Whenuta Waimari Hereward for the work that's happened in Avonhead. Right. And so there's, and they've worked in collaboration with the patrols and police.
Do you think we should invite them in and say hello?
Well, potentially. I'm just bringing out because I think there's a lot of potential there to do more.
Revitalise?
Well, one is to even find out how many are there in our area. And they also work with our local schools. So there's the Canterbury Junior Neighbourhood Support, and Elisa goes to different schools, and the one off the top of my head I can remember is West Spreydon, but I think she also goes to Beckenham. And so there's lots of kids that are involved with stuff, and we don't really know about it.
Yeah.
And it's happening.
So let's invite them, shall we? Before the
Um,
election or after?
Or whenever.
No, you think which would. be
I
good
just
for
ask
them?
when they want to come.
Okay.
Invite them and
Yeah.
then see what they want to do.
Is that all right, Marie? Thank you.
I've got more. Hoonhay Community Association, they had a food drive on the 2nd of July. They got more food for the Hoonhay Food Bank. On last Saturday, the 9th, they had a Love Grace handbag appeal where people would drop off handbags and various supplies. And then they're having a residents meeting
I didn't know that.
next Tuesday. Yeah, they did a big letterbox drop and they've got lots of letterbox dropper offers, whatever you call them, people to deliver flyers, deliverers. Yeah, and then there's a residents meeting next Tuesday, 7 till 8.
Hang on. Next residents meeting next Tuesday. What date's that?
The 19th.
19. What was it? 7 to 8?
Yeah,
I love the way they say 1 hour, done.
it's very efficient with
I
them.
just wish they'd meet earlier.
Oh, that's good if you've got kids.
I
Good
know.
for
Who cares about people who've got kids?
people that have them.
I shouldn't say things like that out loud. I'm
No.
joking. Yeah. go ahead.
Council agreed to the hearings panel report about Lincoln Road and the peak hour bus lanes between what is it, Whiteley and Curlitz Road. Some people supporting it because it will make 4 lanes that could potentially be used for cars in future, so they were happy to support it at the moment. So anyway, and linking to that,
Whiteley to Curlitz.
yeah, which
Do you explain that again, Mel,
which we
sorry?
were supportive of. obviously.
And this was
Yeah.
the hearing panel.
No, the hearings panel worked very collaboratively together. I was on that one and put forward the recommendation to council, went to council. Everyone voted for it bar one person, but some people voted for it, yes, but some people voted for it because of, at least it widens the road and there's potential to look at it and changing it in future.
I spoke to Aaron beforehand about it and said, that I just hated all this money being spent when it need not have been.
Yeah.
And he and I discussed my argument on this. 0.9 of a K through Addington Village, and we spend millions destroying the ethos of the village. And
But this is a different section.
no, it's a different section, but the whole thing could have been dodged.
Yes,
and-
but on
and-
the other hand, this is going to be the first entire length from an outer suburb all the way
Yep.
into town with a proper bus lane, which we haven't got anywhere else. And it'll be the first time we can really see that people can take buses without being obstructed by
I
cars.
do agree with you, but the way.
Anyway,
my-
this is
my pro-
information, not
My
debate.
proposal would still have retained the bus lane, as you know.
Oh, yeah. Well, remember, I voted with you on that.
Yeah,
But anyway,
But
anyhow.
hang on. But I agree with you. But the other issue that drives me nuts is that both he and I, on separate occasions, had asked for evidence that bus lanes changed people's habits.
you sound
And
like
they never
Yanni
replied.
because we haven't got any
Any
full
evidence.
bus lanes.
No,
You
but-
can't have evidence without the lanes.
Well, why have they introduced them without it up there in Papanui 20 years ago?
Yeah, but they're not full bus lanes. They're
Exactly.
interrupted by car parking.
Exactly.
Well, that's
So where's
because,
the evidence for those bus lanes going? No, don't worry. It's too late at night. You're dead right. Sorry, Mel.
you're arguing with something that is
That you
unable
agree
to,
with.
well, no,
Yeah.
it's unable to be answered because
Yeah.
you can't get the evidence for something that's
No.
not implemented properly. Next, because I mentioned the basketball court, and no one has actually brought this to us. I just saw it on Hoonhay's Facebook page that Susie Sow, who used to be the chair of Hoonhay Community Association, had put up a poll on Hoonhay page about a basketball court in Gainsborough Reserve, and they had 65 votes and 95% of people supported it. One of the people that didn't support it is the chair, and don't guess out loud, but is the chair of another residents group and didn't want it to be there, interestingly. So that's all on that. And that two other things, there's been a trip hazard outside a place on Barrington Street that I've been contacted about 6 times, where developers put those metal plates and people are walking along and then they trip on them. And Dennis had brought it up one time, and it was really difficult for enforcement who kept going down there to try and tell the developers to fix it when they're not there to talk to, or the wrong person's there to talk to, because it was 245.
It could be a work safe thing rather than council.
It is a council.
Well,
So we're going to go back and check it over and over. But now the way they're going to get around it is by fixing the footpath and picking up the plates. But the point is that those plates that they put are, some of them are twisted so you can trip on them, and they're also slippery when it's icy.
Okay.
So the whole policy should be looked at, but I've asked about it, but I don't know. And then the last one is, and I think we should take note of this quite seriously, is that Council also passed the Waihoro Lower Heathcote Guidance Plan, which was championed, and you were there, by Linwood Central Heathcote's board, who asked for this whole working party to come together to create this guidance plan, which is just guidance about how to, well, recommendations really, I guess, on anything that is developed around the Lower Heathcote. And it doesn't commit council to anything but as guidance. But we should really be doing that, something at this end. And I'm amazed that we didn't really know too much about this, because I have to say I was not aware of it.
I think it's because it's the personalities who have gone there, and it includes and they includes people who live in that area. Like Alistair lives at Sumner, and Malcolm lives down that way as well. So I talked to them about this, and they're going to come back to the board. And I felt slightly affronted that they had gone there first.
But I also think it may have come from some particular members of that board as well.
Yeah, and it probably,
so we are at somewhat in fault that we haven't done anything in our area. So I feel
we have. I mean, we've talked to them quite a lot about Mid-Heathcote and all the rest of those plans, but we just didn't know they were doing a plan.
No,
which would be an advisory thing, which is a wonderful thing. But I have asked them to come back. I said, probably not at this time, probably in the new board. And because it's an entire policy development, and it's a very interesting thing for a new board to pick up. And it won't take that long, given that they've set some of the principles in place down there. So it might be quicker here, but I think it'll be an interesting thing for new board members to settle in and have a go at doing. So I've already mentioned that to them, but I think we could possibly, do you think we should formally ask them to come to the new board in the new year and present, or no, that's me taking charge of the new board?
Why don't we get advice on the process that occurred and how we could implement something similar?
Yeah, that's a very good idea. Can we have some advice, please, on the process that included the development of a joint policy between the OHRN and what are they? We're Waihoro. What are we? Pardon? Waikura. Okay, and Waikura Community Board. The development of that policy, advisory policy. So it's not a policy, it's a guidance. Guidance, say that. And ask how we in Waihoro can develop a similar one between us and OHRE. Is that all right? Thank you. No, because of Waihoro. Oh, that's very cool. What a good thing. That's why I've always wanted Aotearoa to become our formal name. It gets us in the stadium ahead of Australia. Always. I've always said it. Always. I suggested to a group of people who were totally opposed to Aotearoa years and years ago. I said, but it gets us in the stadium ahead of Australia. Okay. Anything else? I'm not going to say anything. It's too tiring. Yeah, and the staff need to go home. And I'm sick of the sound. I'm sick of the sound of myself anyway. closure. Oh, no. I'm just spreading it around a bit, Callum. Because your pronunciation's improved vastly after your lessons. No, it has, because of the lessons. Yeah.
Tukuna te wairua kia riri ki te taumata ko te matatika te mata pono hei arahi I ngā mahi ka aratahi te tira kia iki panuku kia iki tangaroa humie huie tā iki e. Kia ora.
Thank you very much, staff, especially you guys, because you have to sit there and listen. God, how boring. Thank you for being so attentive in the back row. And thank you, everybody else. Bye-bye. Lee, go and get some